never really predict what's going to become popular and what won't. With the right money and connections, you can make anything happen, but it still feels completely random at times. Such is the case with the 1934 Disney cartoon, The Wise Little Hen. It was meant to be just a standalone silly symphony cartoon, open and shut with no follow-ups or sequels. But it ended up introducing the world to one of the studio's most enduring stars, Donald Duck. He became one of the most popular cartoon characters in the world, even surpassing Mickey. Much ink has been spilled over Donald, his popularity, and his appeal. The same cannot be said for his co-star, Peter Pig. Despite having a role nearly identical to Donald's, he was swiftly forgotten, only making brief appearances in the years since his debut. But he was in that cartoon too, and I think he's worthy of some reappraisal, even just to figure out where Donald succeeded when he couldn't. So let's dig into the story to find out who this boar truly is. The story of The Wise Little Hen is pulled from The Little Red Hen by Mary Mapes Dodge, originally published in 1874. It tells the story of a hen who wants to plant wheat. When she goes to her friends to help, none of them want to. So she's left to labor away on her own. And when she makes that wheat into bread, she doesn't share it with them. So always help your friends because you'll get rewarded in the end. It's a simple morality tale that's easy to understand, in the same vein of the Aesop fables. In most versions of the story, one of her friends is an unnamed pig, which I imagine served to be the inspiration for Peter. In the cartoon, the titular wise hen is going around looking for help to plant her corn. The first person she goes asks is Peter Pig, but he fakes a bellyache to get out of it, leaving her blissfully unaware. She ends up asking him and Donald again for help harvesting them, but again, they refuse. Also, Pig is apparently president of the Idle Hour Club, whatever that is. The hen approaches them one more time, giving them a gift, corn medicine. Realizing they tricked themselves out of a nice meal, they literally kick themselves. Clarence Nash, the studio's resident animal sound voice actor, played Peter in the cartoon. Some sources have said that Peter was meant to be the lead. I mean, he appears first in the cartoon, and he's the president of the Idle Hour Club. I even found some press releases from the era, and they talk more about Peter. However, it was Donald that ended up being the big breakout star. Why? Well, Walt had been looking for a new character to add to the Mickey Mouse cartoon roster, to act as kind of a foil to Mickey. And after seeing The Wise Little Hen, Donald was the one who stood out the most. He appeared a few months later in Orphan's Benefit, and the rest is history. As for why Peter fell to the wayside, maybe it was because he didn't bring much new to the table. Because a full year before The Wise Little Hen premiered, Three Little Pigs was released. It had its own pseudo stars with distinct and memorable personalities. You can look at each of the pigs and know what they're about pretty quickly. You can't really say the same for Peter. Is there anything he brings to the table that you couldn't get from one of those three? Probably not. So, there isn't much of a reason to keep him around. Peter's biggest appearance, aside from The Wise Little Hen, is probably the band concert, largely considered one of the best Disney cartoons ever made. He's playing the trumpet in Mickey's band, doing the crazed vibrato at the beginning of Rossini's William Tell Overture, and trying to keep the song going as the concert is plagued by storms and a heckling Donald. You may be confused when you see two identical pigs in the orchestra. Did he clone himself? No, that's Patty Pig on the tuba, a completely different and original character. Peter does get a few fun moments in the cartoon, the aforementioned vibrato, getting to shoot ice cream at Mickey, and an epic trumpet solo near the end, climaxing with him falling into a wooden barrel. His only other appearances in animation amounted to cameos. Animation from the band concert was reused for the wartime short Altogether. He shows up in the Donald Duck cartoon The Riveter, being fired from his job before Donald steps in. He's in Mickey's Christmas Carol, dancing at Fezziwig's Christmas party. You can find him in Roger Rabbit in the big Toontown scene midway through the film. And most recently, he appeared in the 2013 Mickey Mouse cartoons alongside the rest of the band in the episode The Adorable Couple. He's had a slightly better life in print, finding some roles in various Disney comics as recently as 2020. His appearance list on Indux is kinda long, and a lot of those comics aren't available in English, so I wasn't able to get to all of it. I did read a good chunk of them though. He appeared in comics as early as the 1930s, long before the likes of Carl Barks and Don Rosa would have their turn at the characters. His first appearance came in the Silly Symphony strips printed in American newspapers. See my Bucky Bug video to learn how those came to be. There isn't a whole lot to say about this comic. It's basically the same plot as the cartoon with some slight differences. Like, they actually learn their lessons and are rewarded at the end. It's a more complete character arc. However, there is something I found interesting. Orphan's Benefit had been out for about a month by the time this was printed. Donald had already been pegged as the big breakout star of the cartoon, and you can kinda tell by reading this comic. In the cartoon, Peter shows up first. In the comic, Donald shows up first. And Donald's given a bit more screen time and dialogue. I have no idea if this was an intentional choice, but it definitely marks some kind of shift. By the late 30s, Donald was a popular comic book character in his own right, and it was bigger than just the United States. He was popular the world over. He had his own standalone comic series in Italy, whose title I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, that began publishing in 1937 and lasted for 99 issues. And it continues to this day. Disney comics are still really popular the world over, as opposed to the US where they're still more of a novelty. Anyways, in 1938, the two-part Donald Duck special correspondence story was published, reuniting Donald and Peter for the first time since the Wise Little Hen. The plot centers on the two becoming photojournalists for a newspaper, specifically wartime photographers. The editor of the paper wants photos of a general before anyone else can get a picture of him. And shenanigans ensue. They're framed for being spies, get arrested, get nearly executed, and a whole mess of other things. There's also this weird running gag that they don't believe a cat set them up because cats aren't people. We don't have time to unpack all that, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on. The comic does have a fair bit of continuity with the Wise Little Hen. Peter even mentions the Idol Club at one point. I don't have a whole lot to say about his characterization here. He's just, kinda nice and along for the ride. This story wouldn't make it to the United States until 2011, when it was published in the Walt Disney's Donald Duck title. His most notable recent appearance is in the Young Donald Duck comic series. It centers on, you guessed it, a young Donald Duck and his adventures at a boarding school in Mouston. It's kind of like Goof Troop or Quack Pack, putting Disney characters into a more modern suburban setting and having them go through sitcom-like scenarios. Peter was a recurring character in the series, having been one of Donald's closest friends in Duckburg. They play video games together, they have a little club, what you'd expect from two boys. In general, Peter is portrayed as kind of lazy. Grandma Duck describes him as a loafer. In the comic's first major story, he proclaims that he wants to get rich while doing as little as possible. And Donald gets wrapped up in one of his money-making schemes so they can get a video game. He reminds me a little bit of Eddie from Ed, Edd and Eddy, though he isn't quite as mean. He appears in the first issue, but once Donald moves to Mouston, he only shows up sporadically. Still, it goes to show that he hasn't been entirely forgotten in modern times. Peter Pig is an interesting case study. He was built to be the star, but ultimately fell into obscurity. Imagine if things had gone as planned and Peter did end up becoming super popular. Would he have a pig girlfriend and nephews? Would he have a rich uncle and an eccentric wacky one? Would we have gotten pigtails on the Disney Channel? We can only speculate, since he's been reduced to a mere footnote in another more popular character's career. I can't say if there's a place for Peter in the modern Disney realm. If it hasn't happened by now with the 10 million Duck spin-offs that have been produced, it probably never will. Then again, I wasn't expecting Bucky Bug to make any kind of appearance in the modern age, and he showed up in one of the recent Mickey cartoons, so who knows? Maybe next time they revive DuckTales, they'll bring Peter back for an episode or two. As far as I'm concerned, anything is possible. And that concludes the video. Now I pass the question off to you. What do you make of this? Were you aware of Peter and his history? what would you like to see be done with him in the future? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.